You've heard of Shem and Ham, but what about Noah's third son? What happened to him? Very little is said about Japheth, the forgotten firstborn, and this changes everything you thought you knew about the origin of humanity. Japheth was not only the father of some of the greatest civilizations in history, but he's also a key figure in the prophecies that point to the end times. He's there, tucked away in the background of the Bible, a silent character with enormous importance. And today, we're going to dive deep into his story, uncovering how this nearly overlooked name carries age-old promises, and how he connects to God's redemptive plan that echoes from Genesis all the way to Revelation. So who is Japheth, really? Just a name buried in a list of genealogies, or the missing link in the sacred story? In Genesis 10 verse 21, we find one of the greatest enigmas in biblical genealogy. To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the older brother Japheth. But the grammatical structure of this verse has sparked debate for centuries. Was Shem actually the older brother Japheth? Or was Japheth the firstborn? Some ancient translations, like the Septuagint and various Hebrew manuscripts, suggest that Japheth was Noah's firstborn. If that's the case, why didn't the messianic line come through Japheth? This question is not just historical, it's deeply theological. The pattern of divine choice in the Bible rarely follows human logic. Just as Isaac was chosen over Ishmael and Jacob over Esau, God acts sovereignly and unexpectedly, choosing not the one we might expect, but the one who fits his eternal purpose. And in this mystery, Japheth's journey begins to reveal prophetic depth. While Shem became the channel of the messianic line, Japheth was responsible for something equally grand. He became the father of the Gentile nations. In Genesis 9 and 10, we find a long list of Japheth's descendants, names that at first glance may seem like mere historical footnotes, but which are actually the seeds of entire civilizations. Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Each of these names represents peoples who would go on to form empires, kingdoms, and cultures that shape the world as we know it. Take Javan, for example. He's widely recognized as the ancestor of the Greeks. The word Ionians, one of the major Greek tribes, appears in Hebrew texts as descendants of Javan. From these people, the Hellenistic civilization was born, which heavily influenced Rome, Europe, Western philosophy, and even modern legal systems. Japheth's influence stretches from Greek philosophy all the way to the foundations of Western Christianity. Madai is another notable figure. He is considered the ancestor of the Medes, who later joined the Persians to form the powerful Medo-Persian Empire, one of the central empires mentioned in the book of Daniel. They were instrumental in the fall of Babylon and issued the decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. These names appear again in a prophetic context, especially in Ezekiel 38 and 39. There, the prophet describes a coalition of northern nations, led by a prince named Gog from the land of Magog, who will rise against Israel in the last days. These aren't just relics of ancient history. They are prophetic puzzle pieces still playing out on the world stage. Many scholars associate these regions with parts of modern-day Russia, Turkey, and the Caucasus, showing that Japheth's lineage is still active in current global affairs. In Genesis 9 verse 27, Noah proclaims prophetic blessing. May God enlarge Japheth, and may he dwell in the tents of Shem. This isn't just poetic language. It's a divine decree with global implications. The Hebrew word for enlarge carries the idea of expansion, multiplication, territorial dominion, and even spiritual influence. And that's exactly what we see happening throughout history. After the confusion of languages at Babel, Japheth's descendants were the ones who spread out the furthest. Their names became linked with island nations, coastal lands, and territories in the north and west. From Japheth came the Greeks, Romans, Persians, Medes, Scythians, Celts, Slavs, Germans, and many others, peoples who shaped the Western world politically, culturally, scientifically, and spiritually. Japheth and the expansion of the gospel. And here's the most remarkable part. Japheth's expansion wasn't just territorial. It was cultural, intellectual, and most of all, spiritual. Greece paved the way with philosophy. Rome with its roads, legal systems, and order. Medieval Europe with its religious influence. And all of it prepared the stage for the spreading of the gospel. In the New Testament, we see Noah's prophetic blessing come to life. The Gentiles, descended of Japheth, begin to dwell in the tents of Shem. In other words, they are spiritually grafted into the people of Israel through faith in Jesus Christ, a descendant of Shem. In Romans 11, Paul describes Gentiles as wild olive branches grafted into the cultivated olive tree, Israel. The spiritual union between Shem and Japheth is the foundation of the church. Jews and Gentiles united as one in Christ. Even though Japheth didn't carry the messianic lineage, God used him as the backdrop for redemption. He was the architect, silently, of the cultures that became the stage for Christ's arrival. You can't disconnect the rise of empires from God's redemptive plan. The Greek language, for example, was the very one used to write the New Testament. The Roman Empire, with its roads and governance, created the perfect environment for the gospel to spread far and wide. The Book of Jasher, an extra glimpse into Japheth's world. While the Book of Jasher is not part of the biblical canon, it's referenced in texts like Joshua 10 verse 13 and 2 Samuel 1 verse 18. This apocryphal manuscript offers curious details about Noah's sons and their lives after the flood. According to this account, Japheth was a wise and thoughtful man, concerned about the future of his children and God's mission for humanity to fill the earth. He is said to have led his descendants toward the northern and western regions, fulfilling prophetic words spoken by Noah. Japheth's spiritual significance today. To understand Japheth is to recognize that God's plan goes beyond just a lineage of Messiah, ***. It's about seeing that even the nations outside the original covenant were always part of the divine promise, by grace. The Church of Christ today is largely made up of Japheth's descendants. And that's no coincidence. It's a literal fulfillment of biblical prophecy.